In this video, we're covering practice questions related to human growth and development. We'll be covering topics like Freud, Piaget, the superego, Erikson, and more. These practice questions will help you prepare for a wide variety of counseling exams, such as the NCE, CPCE, CECE, and NCMHCE. Going through this video will not only help test your knowledge, but along the way you might pick up some other tips and tricks for testing. So make sure you stick around for the full video so you don't miss any of those. Let's get started with question 1. Jean Piaget's theory had how many stages? A, 4, B, 5, C, 8, D, 10. The correct answer here is A. There are 4 stages. Piaget is not only a well-known psychologist, but this is a name you're also going to want to keep track of, as you're likely going to come across him and some of his theories. He's well known for his work with cognitive development and the psychology of children. Piaget was considered a structuralist, meaning that he believed in universal stages of development that resulted in distinct changes in the ways that one thinks. For his theory of development, he had 4 stages: the sensory motor stage, the preoccupational stage, the concrete operational stage, and finally, the formal operational stage. If you want to learn more about Piaget and his theory, check out the description. I'll put a link to another video that I made on the topic. Now let's move on to question 2. But first, my name is Keegan. I have a master's degree in counseling and I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor. I make videos like this to help you better understand various concepts in the world of psychology, counseling, and mental health. Keep in mind that engaging with this channel does not constitute a therapist-client relationship. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes. This does not substitute or replace professional mental health care. Question 2 is, what is the first stage of Freud's psychosexual theory of development? A, oral, B, anal, C, phallic, D, genital. For question 2, the correct answer is A. You'll certainly want to have a good understanding of Freud and the variety of theories and concepts that he came up with. While not all of his theories have stood the test of time, it's content that's likely to be tested on, as it's the foundation to modern psychology. As a quick recap, Freud had 5 stages of psychosexual development. These were oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital. His theory is not believed to cover the entire lifespan, but it did focus on libido, or our sexual energy. If you want to learn more about the psychosexual stages of development, I'll put another link in the description to a video about this. Question 3. The superego is best described with which term? A, moral, B, ideal, C, conscience, D, all of the above. The best description of the superego is D, all of the above. Here we run into another question linked to Freud, supporting the idea that you should have a good understanding of him and the concepts linked to him. As a quick reminder, Freud theorized the id, ego, and superego. The id is thought to be unconscious and dominated by a desire for pleasure. The ego is thought to balance the impulsive desires of the id against the constraint of the superego. And the superego is thought to be dominated by morals, ideals, as well as a person's conscience. I have a whole video where we dive into this as well, and so I'll put another link to that in the description if you're wanting to learn more. Question 4. Freud's developmental theory is best described as A, psychosocial, B, psychodynamic, C, psychosexual, D, psychosymbolic. The correct answer is C. If you caught it, I made a quick reference to this question earlier. So pay attention. When you're taking your test, some of the questions might actually answer later questions or help you with questions that you had already done earlier that you maybe weren't as confident on. Freud's theory is considered psychosexual. This is because he theorized that people's development is driven by their sexual energy, or their libido. According to his theory, when people don't meet the developmental challenges at a stage, they become fixated or stuck at that stage, which then results in problems later in life. This was a tough question though, because choice B was for psychodynamic. That made this question tricky, because Freud's theory is also considered psychodynamic, as it deals heavily in unconscious processes. As for choice A, a psychosocial theory would be one like Erik Erikson's. And as for choice D, if you didn't recognize this term, it's one that I made up, so no worries if you weren't familiar with it. On to question 5. If someone sees things as only good or bad, they're engaging in what? A, extremism, B, dualistic thinking, C, critical thinking, D, relativistic thinking. For question 5, the correct answer is B, dualistic thinking. In my opinion, this is a harder question. That's because we're coming into a topic that's not often referred to by its technical name. When it comes to dualistic thinking, I don't often hear people reference it as that. Instead, more commonly, we're going to hear people talk about black and white thinking or all or nothing thinking. With dualistic thinking, this can happen to anyone, but it is more common for teenagers. As a helpful reminder, dual refers to something with two parts. Therefore, dualistic thinking is referencing something with two opposing aspects to it, such as black and white thinking or all or nothing thinking. As for choice A, extremism could potentially include some sort of dualistic thinking. However, it seems that people who have extreme thinking are more often only considering one side of something and not even considering the opposing side. With C, critical thinking, this is often considered a process or a way of thinking through things. For somebody who's engaged in critical thinking, they may be less likely to engage in dualistic thinking, as rather than considering only the black and white aspects of it, someone who's thinking critically can likely see the various shades of gray that exist. Finally, we get to choice D. Relativistic thinking, in a sense, is the opposite of dualistic thinking. Similar to critical thinking, someone who's engaged in relativistic thinking is likely to be able to see the various shades of gray that exist in an idea rather than only seeing the black and the white. Now to question 6. What type of process occurs in psychodynamic theories? A, irrational, B, logical, C, unconscious, D, conscious. The answer is C, unconscious. In this case, the answer to this question was actually given earlier. As a quick reminder, psychodynamic theories are those that deal in the unconscious. In Freud's theory of the id, ego, and superego, the id specifically is thought to be almost entirely unconscious. Let's move on to question 7. But first, if you're enjoying this video and finding it helpful, please help me out by giving it a like and subscribing. Question 7 is, which person had a theory that emphasizes the influence of instincts? A, Erikson, B, Freud, C, Perry, D, Lazarus. The correct answer to this question is B, Freud. Freud's theory of psychosexual development places an emphasis on the instincts that people have. With Erikson's theory, he placed the importance on logic and reasoning. Earlier, we discussed dualistic thinking, and this was something that influenced a lot of Perry's work. As for Lazarus, he was known for his work in behavioral therapy, specifically systematic desensitization and phobias. Question 8. Which theory is most heavily influenced by the ego? A, psychosexual, B, psychological, C, psychodramatic, D, psychosocial. This is a tricky one. The correct answer is Erikson's psychosocial theory. You may have been tempted to say Freud's psychosexual theory of development, which makes sense since Freud is well known for his concepts of the id, ego, and superego. But Freud's theory seemed to focus more on the id, or those unconscious and impulsive drives. Erikson, on the other hand, focused more on the ego and how the ego had power and control over a person. On to question 9. What is the second stage of Freud's psychosexual theory of development? A, phallic, B, oral, C, latency, D, anal. The correct answer is D, the anal stage. As was mentioned earlier, the oral stage is the first stage in Freud's theory. This is followed by the anal stage, the phallic stage, the latency stage, and finally, the genital stage. Again, if you want to learn more about all of these stages, I'll put a link to a video on it in the description. And now, the last question for the video, question 10. What is an ideographic approach? A, theory that applies to a group. B, a theory that applies to one person. C, a theory that applies to a family. D, all of the above. For an ideographic approach, the correct answer is B. Ideographic approaches are those that focus on one person. Freud's and Piaget's theories are examples of this. In contrast, we have nomothetic approaches. For a nomothetic approach, this applies to or focuses on a group of people rather than an individual. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or the DSM, is actually an example of a nomothetic approach, as it's pulling from information for a wide variety, a large number of people to help better define and clarify different mental health disorders. So that brings us to the end of our 10 practice questions for today. How'd you do? Let me know in the comments. I hope that you found this video helpful. While you're here, check out some of the other videos on my channel. Thank you so much for watching.